Welcome back to Saturday Morning Spider-Man! That's right, we're covering the Ultimate Spider-Man run. And for those of you guys who were concerned when I said we'd be cutting back on current Marvel, this is not current Marvel, this is really old stuff, and it's really good stuff, so don't worry guys. Ultimate Spider-Man is here to stay until the movie comes out. I've got it timed so that there will be a reason why it ends there, and for those of you guys who know the Ultimate Spider-Man storyline, you know what I've got planned. Anyway, today we're going to be covering Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 16, Deadpool. Like I said in the previous episode, we do need to start kind of jumping around to the good storylines because nothing crazy happens, and we want to kind of keep moving forward to time this out perfectly with the movie. Now, the only real significant thing that you need to know about over the last 4 volumes is the fact that Peter broke up with MJ. And as Peter struggles to breathe, having 3 metal rings constricting around him, he says that it's going to take a lot more than that to embarrass him in public. Actually, maybe not a lot more. Ringer shouts, "Did you really not think you were ready for me? Straight up, I'm from Waldorf, Maryland." He starts to throw more rings, and Peter dodges them, asking, "What does that even mean?" Says, "When did being from Maryland ever be cool?" Ringer then tells him, "That's right, chuckle it up, mutie. I'm gonna be walking out there with all of these diamonds." And Kitty Pryde then floats down behind Ringer, telling him, "You really need to knock it off with the whole racist thing." Ringer turns back, firing his rings at her, and as they phase through Kitty Pryde, because her power is the ability to phase through walls, solid objects, and just about anything else, she tells him that, as he can tell, his whole shtick won't really work for her. She grabs and starts phasing through Ringer, looking to short circuit his suit, but Peter calls out, telling her that he's actually having a bit of a problem trying to breathe here. Kitty runs back over to Peter, telling him that this might feel a bit weird, so a few seconds later, she takes Peter by the shoulders and phases him through the rings. And Peter says, "Thanks, now I have no shirt." Kitty laughs, telling him, "That's a bonus for her then." And now their hula hoop guy is getting away, so he should probably web the crap out of him. Up ahead, Ringer starts running, but before getting away, a wall of web is sprayed all in front of him. Ringer turns back to attack, and Peter webs up his hands. But rather than stopping, Ringer continues to try and generate more rings. As he does, Kitty sees that she couldn't short him out because of the device on his back. However, as Ringer boosts his power, he ends up blowing up the pack as it's aimed towards Kitty. Peter shouts for her to get back, but after the explosion, Kitty says that he really needs to remember that her phasing power lets her not get hurt and stuff. Peter tells her, "Sorry, just a knee-jerk reaction." He puts back on his shirt, and Kitty says that she notices something on Ringer's butt. She pulls out his wallet and asks what kind of a supervillain brings this to a robbery, and then she proceeds to flip through it. She starts to laugh when she says the guy's name is Anthony Davis, and he's from Medina County, Iowa. The officers start to arrive on the scene, and Peter says that this is probably where they should, get the heck out of here. And a short while later, in Peter and Kitty's abandoned warehouse hideaway, Kitty asks Peter if something's wrong. It seems like he had a bit on his mind today. Peter tells her, yeah, it's his aunt. He really doesn't want to have to tell her that he's Spider-Man. It would really just be too much for her. Kitty tells him that 80% of the things that happen because he's Spider-Man. All she wants to do is be able to go to the movies and hold hands. She then says that he should start to think of it this way. If his aunt knew that he had a girlfriend, it would give him more excuses to not be home and off doing superhero stuff. Peter asks if they would hide that she's a mutant, and Kitty tells him no. She doesn't hide the fact that she's an X-Men. But before the two of them can go any further, the remote-controlled X-plane arrives to take Kitty back home. Peter says that he really needs to get a robot-controlled plane sometime. And as the two of them say their goodbyes, Kitty asks if he still likes her, to which Peter simply kisses her. But before that could go any further, Kitty phases through, stating, didn't know how to break up the kiss, so hopefully that wasn't too freaky. A short while later, as Kitty arrives back at the X-Mansion, she notices that there's no one home. After setting down her bag in the kitchen, she sees Logan appear, and she happily says, "You came back!" Without saying a word, Logan pulls out a knife and he lunges at her. She quickly phases through, and then she runs into the next room where she's shot with a bolt of electricity. She then asks if that's Aurora, and Storm asks, "What's that? Is that even a word?" Whatever. And then she shoots another bolt of electricity. Kitty phases down to the lower levels and runs into the control room, accidentally shorting out the control panel. The doors to the room start to open, and that's when Kitty looks back to see the automated controls are still active, and she pushes a button. Back at the Parker household, Aunt May tells Peter that she's going out for a bit. So the group of friends from work, so Peter smiles, telling her, "Have a good time." And after she leaves, he notices the X-plane hovering over the warehouse. He suits up and makes his way over, and when he boards it, he finds no whirlwind there. But before he can get back out of it though, the hatch door slams shut and the jet rockets off to the Westchester mansion. As the jet is landing, Peter walks up to the front door of the mansion asking if anyone's there, specifically Kitty Pryde. Kitty opens the door and Peter says that he's pretty sure the jet's broken. It dragged him all the way out here, but why is my spider sense going crazy? Is Logan here? Without saying anything, Kitty hits Peter with a stun gun. Once he hits the ground, he looks up to see Kitty's face start to change and hers saying, "Far out! It's Spider-Man! There's something we didn't expect." Deadpool steps back to his group of cyborgs stating, "Bonus!" A little while later, Peter begins to open up his eyes, and when he sees him and the other X-Men bound up and chained, he looks around asking, "Where am I?" And a voice shouts, "One of them is awake!" Deadpool says, "Man, you're such a tough cookie." And the cyborg asks, "Can I hit him again?" To which Deadpool says, "Hell yeah!" The cyborg shocks Peter and his vision fades, and he hears another cyborg stating that they're reaching the drop point. He then asks, "Are you just gonna drop us?" And Deadpool says, "You've all got wacky mutant powers. You can handle it. Besides, you're all gonna be dead by nightfall anyway." That's the show. But if you want, wake them all up before you kick them off of the ship. Actually, it would be fun hearing them scream. The first cyborg says that he really wants to take the mask off of Spider-Man, but Deadpool stomps him, telling him, "Hey, show some respect to the mask. Masks mean something. Respect that." He then leans over to Peter, telling him, "Time to rise and shine." And Peter asks, "Who are you?" Deadpool then says not to push them out, and seconds later, Peter is thrown out of the helicopter. He falls from the sky and he quickly positions himself to fire a web up to catch himself, which then throws him back into the air. Before crashing back into the ground though, he sees the other X-Men pushing out, all wearing the same metal cuffs. And as he hits the ground, he asks, "Where the heck am I? Did I really just fall out of a plane? I did, didn't I? And now I've lost my boot." Even better, as he starts to pull the cuffs off of the front side, his spider sense begins to go crazy, so he quickly jumps over the flying cyborg body. The cyborg keeps jumping up shouting, and he fires at Peter, and Peter shouts, "I was trying to have an inner monologue here." Peter webs up the cyborg's face, and then he runs up, bashing him in the head. And then after that, he realizes that the guy's head is partially metal, so he should probably aim for the fleshy parts. After webbing up the rest of that cyborg, he shouts that he's already passed his curfew. Even though most superheroes would be embarrassed to run away, he shall do that now. He runs off, but after running through the bushes, he runs into another metal man. He shouts, "Why can't I just run through the jungle without one of you?" But as he goes on, Colossus grabs him, telling him, "Please don't say that." And Peter shouts, "Oh, you're the giant Russian metal man." He then starts shouting for Kitty, and Colossus tells him that he needs to calm down and not yell. And Peter tells him, "Of course I do. We have to fight Kitty. She attacked me." Colossus tells him, "No, she did not. And it wasn't Aurora who attacked me. What we're looking at are shapeshifters." Peter tells him, "Or maybe the women decided to take over." Colossus then says that they need to hurry and find the others, and as they head off, Scott's optic blast shoots through the forest. The two of them run over to find Scott being taken down by a group of cyborgs, and they quickly jump in to help him. After kicking one of the men away, Scott asks, "Where are we?" And Peter tells him that he's not sure. Maybe Six Flags Crazy Town. Also, you're welcome. As one of the last cyborgs are taken out, Colossus breaks the cuffs off of Scott, and Colossus begins to hear something. Peter tells him that it's either his gentle sobbing or... That's when a cyborg with the lower half of a snake slithers out shouting, "Am I on? Okay. Yo, mutants! My name is Bonebreaker, and I'm here to break your bones." Bonebreaker starts to fire into Colossus, and Peter grabs Scott to avoid the hit. As the blast lays into Colossus, Bonebreaker shouts that this is what he wants. He wants to kill them and have everyone see him do it. Scott starts firing back, and Peter asks, "What does he mean by everyone?" Bonebreaker shouts that they're ready for him. They sacrificed themselves for this. The mutants may have been born with powers, but they willingly gave up their bodies to allow them to hunt them. But before we can go any further, a bolt of lightning cracks down from the sky, shocking him. And Storm floats down asking, "Is everyone else really angry about this whole thing?" Peter quietly says, "Whoa." And Scott asks Storm if she knows where they are. She tells him yes, and creating a whirlwind to lift everyone up, she tells them all to look around. Scott says, "Krakoa! They brought us to Krakoa." And Peter then asks, "Where's that?" "Hopefully off the coast of Long Island, right?" Scott tells him no, it's off the coast of Genosha and the South Pacific. And before he could go on, Colossus shouts, "Over there!" The sounds of helicopters begin to get louder, and they begin to fire on the group. Storm releases the whirlwind, dropping everyone, and then the helicopter starts to fall from the sky. As it crashes, a figure starts to walk out of the fire, and Kitty asks if everyone's okay. She runs up to Peter, telling him, "Thank God you're okay." And Peter grabs her, telling her, "Wait, you could be a shapeshifter." She leans in, whispering something, and Peter says, yeah, that's really you. Yeah. Nightcrawler bamfs in, holding a cyborg arm, telling them all that it's time for payback. He does believe that they are the stars of the show. Angel then flies down, holding Jean's body, saying that he found her hanging from a tree. He didn't know what to do. Scott grabs her, shouting for her to wake up, and after a few shakes, she shouts, "Everyone, show!" She then asks where they are, and Scott tells her Krakoa Island, and she shouts, "Are you kidding me?" Peter then says, "Hang on, what the heck is Krakoa Island?" And Kitty explains that it is an island prison for mutants. The nation of Genosha imprisons them and hunts them for sport and then broadcasts it on TV. They were here last month, and they may have stuck their noses in when the professor told them not to. Peter then says that sounds rather inhumane, and a voice tells him, "That's one way of looking at it." Deadpool jumps out with his Reavers, telling them that the other side of it is that you are sickening, unholy, genetic freaks who have no business being alive in the first place. Plus, you're international terrorists. By the way, my name is Deadpool, and I'm about to show you why. So smile, you're about to make television history. As the two teams begin to clash, Deadpool shouts that the one who collects the most mutant carcasses gets a case of the Kolskis. Peter then yells, "I'm not a mutant!" Not that there's anything wrong with that, and Scott tells everyone that they need to hurry and find high ground. The X-Men turn and fight their way back, while Scott shouts that they can't take this fight head on. They're just simply outmanned and outgunned here. Nightcrawler teleports behind Deadpool swinging, and Deadpool spins back, grabbing him by the throat, telling him, "You must be the blue smelly one. You really should have listened to your captain and ran like hell." Peter swings in, kicking Deadpool off, and tells him, "Oops, I was running the wrong way." A short while up ahead, Peter and Kitty begin to look through the bushes, and Peter tells them that they need to call someone, maybe Nick Fury. Kitty tells him, "Remember, Nick Fury hates you, but for what it's worth, she's really sorry about getting you mixed up into all of this. Please don't break up with her." Peter tells her, "Well, duh." And Kitty asks if he's mad, and Peter shouts, "Of course I'm mad, but you didn't do this. Besides, I'm pretty sure that you'd be breaking up with me after I'm grounded for like 7 years because I didn't come home." And then Kitty thinks about it. What about Professor Xavier? What did they do with him? Before anyone else can ask that question, Spider-Man's spider sense goes off, and he webs away from an explosion, and Kitty tells him that he is so gonna break up with her. A little ways back, Scott tries to hold down the line, but Deadpool and the Reavers manage to knock off Scott's visor, knocking him to the ground. Up in the sky, Storm starts to take out the helicopters, giving the rest of them time to fight back. And as Peter punches Deadpool, he says, "You know, if I was a lesser superhero, I would say something lame like, 'Your show's been canceled,' but that's totally not me." And Kitty tells him that the fact that he thought of it is a cause for concern. Peter grabs Deadpool and rips his mask off to reveal Xavier? And Xavier shouts to everyone, "Run! I beg you all to run!" Everyone asks what is going on, and Peter shouts, "Wait a second," and he clocks Xavier. Kitty yells, "What the heck are you doing?" And Peter says, "He's the dude with the thing!" And Xavier shouts to hurry up and kill Spider-Man. He's one of them. And in the confusion, Deadpool, posing as Xavier, starts to fire into the crowd. As everyone tries to dodge, Peter says that he does have spider sense. They need to learn to trust the spider sense. The group begins to run up ahead, and when the coast is clear, Nightcrawler then asks where's Scott. Back on the battlefield, Deadpool's putting back on his mask, telling everyone that they need to hurry and pull the legs off of Spider-Man. This isn't going so smoothly because we didn't plan for him. Meanwhile, up ahead, Peter and the rest of them press on, and Storm spots the studio where they're broadcasting from. But before they can move, an electrical blast shoots Peter in the back. His body bounces across the ground, and Kitty turns back with a face full of rage. Deadpool says that it's time for them to wrap this all up, and Kitty charges through them, phasing in and out of all of the cyborgs. She tells them, "A funny thing happens when you phase through machinery, seeing as you're all half machine." And Deadpool says, yeah, just do that thing and die." And then he hits her in the back with a stun gun. As he aims the gun at Kitty's head, he tells her, "You have spunk." But before the trigger is pulled, Nightcrawler teleports in, grabbing the gun. All of the remaining cyborgs turn to fire, and Deadpool shouts, "Don't do it!" But it's too late as everyone shoots, hitting Deadpool. Kitty and Nightcrawler begin taking out the rest of them, and Angel swoops down, grabbing Deadpool. And as they get high into the air, Angel releases him, letting him crash back into the ground. He starts to get back up, telling everyone, "All right, no more fun!" And Peter jumps in, punching him. He jumps on top of him, laying into him, and then he rips his mask off again, asking, "What does it take for you to go night-night?" Everyone stops fighting to look, and they see the Deadpool's face, as it is a skinless skull encased in plastic. And Deadpool shouts, "God, I told you not to do that!" And he kicks Peter off of him. He then opens fire, yelling, "You don't have what it takes to win! They gave up everything to put you all down!" Deadpool begins chasing down Peter specifically, and Kitty tells Colossus to throw her. Deadpool pins down Peter, asking if he understands, and Peter tells him, "Yeah, you smell like a KFC dumpster on a hot day." And as Deadpool pushes his gun into Peter's head, Kitty shoots through him, phasing through Deadpool's body. He falls back screaming, and he begins to explode. But before he can go off, Kitty grabs Peter, phasing the two of them away from the blast. The smoke starts to clear, and a group of cyborgs shout, "Let's get him for Wadey!" But as the group steps forward, a giant optic blast shoots by them all, and Scott and Jean step out of the woods. As the two of them meet back up, Peter and the X-Men X-Men rip through the island until they finally make their way to the studio. Jean telepathically asks Xavier where is he, and in the room that he's being held in, Mojo tells the guards to just kill him. But when the guards don't move, he asks what's wrong, and then he turns back to see Xavier's collar has been released. Back in the main room, everyone begins to scream, and as they run, Xavier wheels himself out, saying that they really should just leave this horrid place. He holds his hand out, shaking Peter's, telling him that he really came to their rescue. He fears what may have happened if he wasn't there. And he tells him that's great, so can he move in with them when his aunt kicks him out for being so late? A little while later, Peter and the X-Men take one of the planes to leave the island, but watching them is the smoldering body of Deadpool. Much later in the night, Peter and Kitty walk over to Peter's house, and Peter says that it's 4:30 in the morning and there's no way out of this. He has to tell Aunt May that he's Spider-Man. Kitty says that maybe they can get the professor or Jean to make her forget that he was missing in the first place. Peter tells her no, that would just be wrong. Peter and Kitty hold hands as Peter pushes the door open and finds an empty house. He checks Aunt May's room and sees that she isn't there, so Kitty phases back out, stating that the car isn't there either. She then looks at the phone to see that there's a message, and Peter hits play. Aunt May's voice says that she's sorry for not being home, but don't freak out. She isn't coming home tonight. The date's going well, and she's gonna be staying out for the night. Kitty laughs, saying that it looks like her aunt got her groove on, and it looks like he really dodged a bullet. And that resolves the ultimate Deadpool arc. Now, as you can tell, Deadpool really isn't the jokester that we all know from the conveniently awesome Marvel Universe. In the Ultimate Universe, Deadpool's really just a butthead. He's just a jerk. So let me know what you guys think down below. Do you like jerky kind of Ultimate Deadpool, or do you like regular, normal, funny Deadpool? And you can also subscribe to the channel to get your Saturday morning Spider-Man fill, and I will see you next time right here.